G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a video about some stuff that people will find quite obvious, some people won't realise, and to be truth, to a small degree, stuff that I've just learned recently myself, or had reinforced recently myself. And that is about the importance of fitness, for want of a better way of putting it, in the way of precision shooting. And I'm talking extreme precision shooting. I'm talking in the way of trying to be completely repeatable and completely manageable, so you get exactly the right process, exactly the right results, the consistency you're looking for in extreme precision shooting. Now the obvious is, as I have explained in a lot of ways previously in previous videos, is that a big part of making things work properly, apart from setting your rifle up properly in its action on its bipod, to how it's set up in your butt pad height and your chassis stiffness and all the bits and pieces I've been through in various forms of shooting, of setting up your rifle. A big part of the ingredient in the way of recoil management and consistency, basically making everything happen exactly the same every time, so that your point of impact behaves, it is controlled by your consistency as a complete system, being the human, the rifle, the bullet, everything about it needs to be completely consistent. And I've found that comfort is a part of that. If you are in a point where you're stressing physically, in the form of any pain, any stiffness, any tension, any of those sorts of things tend to cause a problem with your consistency. People quite regularly ask me, how do I get and a lot of emails or a few emails and comments and things like that, how do you get your high power rifles, the big recoiling rifles, to have such little recoil and such little movement in the way of muzzle rise and that side of things? And I don't always get it perfect by any means, but what I am doing to a large degree, apart from setting up rifles, is I am a 6'4", 220 pound human, but I'm also a worker. I'm also someone who works all the time. I'm not a fitness fanatic by any means, but I do try and keep myself healthy and trim, and I do have probably a reasonably strong body, which makes it easier for me to function in a form that is consistent. In a negative form of that same thing is that I'm old enough and broken enough to mean that I'm stiff and not as flexible, so I need to find a better comfort setup, so I need to be set up properly. So I, as explained before, I have my chest off the ground, I don't have my neck crimped over too far, I have things that make it easier for me to be comfortable. I use my frame of my elbows and my shoulders and get my chest off the ground, so my heartbeat and breathing and things don't affect things so much. So it is about comfort, is my large drive out of it, but it's also about fitness. Now I can go further down that rabbit hole of what I'm trying to say, what I found on that side of things, but I've actually really had it just reinforced. And not with these big fellas, or this is the 6.5 gap, this is the 3.3 out Lapua, this is set up where it doesn't recoil very much. This one is a standard rifle pushing heavier loads that does recoil a little bit more, and I'm obviously up to the 50 BMG and the 375 Gibbs and all that sort of stuff, rifles that push a lot more. Not with these rifles at all. With doing our FTC 22 long rifle target and doing thousands of rounds on that to test it, to make sure durability and all that sort of things was good, it forced us into doing more shooting, into doing just constant shooting. We're trying to do, both me and Sam, laying down behind it. We're just shooting it in the prone position. That was set up, that was the easiest place to do that side of things, and doing 100 to 150 rounds an evening, or 200 rounds an evening over every day, which is working, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, starting work at 5 o'clock, working till 3, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then going down and after work going and doing those rounds to make sure we got our test process happened in a reasonable space of time. But that also forced us into doing more shooting. Even though once a week, twice a week, we're out doing one form or other shooting or not, especially me, it put more rounds on more trigger time on for both of us. found, certainly Sam found decent improvements in some things, quite faster to get on things because she's getting more trigger time. So all positive on that side of things, but there's also some more information I got out of that. And that was something that we could honestly see where fitness mattered. When it was stiff and sore and body's hurting, and really want to be relaxing and you're sore, then, or too tired or whatever it was, any duress, and the shot count dropped off. You know, the amount of hits, the amount of times you hit 10 targets in a row, or 10 of the things in the row, and I'll put a little image on there of the target I'm talking about for those people who don't understand. Essentially, it's only at 50 yards we're shooting it. It's 22 long rifles, so almost no recoil going on. Trigger follow through and all that sort of stuff, very important. Your consistency is just as important, but shooting from a 2.5 inch target down to a 1/4 inch target at 50 yards. And it was very noticeable that when for either one of us, basically we live, we're 24/7 people, so when we've been pushing it too hard, burning the candle too hard at both ends, then we're both tired. Both our scores would be lower. You know, we would both be shooting and hitting the first 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, or 7, 8, 9, 10, or 8, 9, 10, whatever it was. There'd be some misses and starting to hit just the edge of it, or not hit it, and struggling to hit the last one. Really started to be noticeable, and both whether it was physically tired or physically sore. In my case, more likely to have tried to snap something off during the day, and then there's something that's hurting, whether it's the shoulder or the arm or the hand or whatever it is, and there's pain, you're dealing with it. Or where we lay down, there's the odd ant that wanders through and you're bitten by an ant, and that doesn't help things either. But it's definitely a noticeable thing, and actually fitness is part of it. And when I come back to it, I can duplicate that stuff at the long range stuff, and the extreme sort of stuff. There's the same sort of results. The other thing that I noticed, and I suppose part of where this conversation is generated from, is that out of years and years and years of doing it, and years now of having to do it in the video side of things, and having to produce a result in the way of trying to make a video. So we go out there, and it's not just a case of, oh, well, don't worry about it today type thing. It's a case of, listen, you know, we get one chance in a week, generally weather-wise and work-wise and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of effort goes into it. We set up all our cameras and all that sort of stuff, and to a degree, I've got to knuckle down and make it happen. And that means if you're hurting or you're sore or you're tired or wherever it is, well, it's really not time to whine about it. Time to knuckle down and make it happen. Makes it harder, but it's something that I have learned processes to do. And that's really what I'm talking about. In this situation here, when we're both in a situation where we're both really tired and our scores aren't so good, and not so much scores, we're just looking at where we're hitting and missing, and we're not trying to compete with each other, to be honest with you. We're much more just doing it and happy for the other person to do well as well as ourselves. But it's something that we noticed in that form when it was hard, and saw we'd both be about the same, and I am quite slightly more able to knuckle down and change that. I'm able to focus and get my 10 hits out of switching off a fair bit of that sort of stuff. Bit harder for Sam, not so practiced at that side of things. But as I said, this is not a competition, not trying to talk about wonderful Mark or any of that side of things. What I am pointing out, or what it does reinforce, is the comfort side of things, is that dealing with pain, dealing with tension, all that sort of stuff doesn't make a better shooter of you. But the truth of it is fitness, general fitness, is an issue. Being able to lay down and be comfortable, and that means that if you're carrying way too much weight and it's hard to lay down and on your guts, and you struggle to breathe in that sort of situation, or you are basically fatigue a lot easier, or you are unable to get into those positions, then because in all sorts of forms, it's always easier with some more fitness. And I'm not just talking about fitness of laying behind a rifle. I'm talking about fitness of being able to, I'm also not a fitness fanatic, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about running 20 Ks every day or anything silly like that. I'm not a gym guy or doing that side of things. Nothing against everyone or anyone that does that side of things, but I'm talking general fitness, health is going to help. It's an obvious thing in a lot of ways, but it probably isn't too. There looks like a fairly motionless, low effort thing. You've just got to sort of get it right, and to a degree you can, but fitness, general health and strength are things that certainly help. And as you push further in the calibers, and as you push further in the level of extremes that you're trying to go to, it not only helps in your physical form, it also helps in your mental form to be able to stay focused, stay thinking about what it is. A lot of ELR, of real ELR shooting, and I'm not talking 2,000 yards with a 416 or even, to be honest, 3,000 yards with the big super capable rifles. I'm talking when you're going out to where it's properly subsonic, you're moving into proper multiple wind zones, you're moving into places where it's harder to figure things out. You really do have to have your head switched on. It's probably one of the hardest bits in the equation, not actually making sense of the last little string you shot and making sense of where that wind's going to work out where to hold that to hit the target. Unlike what a lot of people might think, in the real ELR stuff, you're not just holding your crosshairs on and pulling the trigger and then the group will eventually end up hitting the target at all. You are constantly moving, constantly trying to read what the bullet is going to do over the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 15 seconds of bullet flight. Some people might use luck. If you're doing it properly, then what you're trying to do is work out what that wind's going to do out of the last little string. If it was just the last 2 shots or it was the last 10 shots, you're trying to work out where that's going to get it on target. And physical health and physical strength just makes it easier to be more relaxed and let your brain do the work, which it does have to do to a degree. Anyway, it's maybe, like I said, completely obvious to some people, maybe controversial to other people. It's certainly something we found, and the surprising thing for me, to a degree, was have it so heavily reinforced with that 22 long rifle target, our FTC target, having that so obviously pointed out. Physical health really changed things, how we felt in the evening, how we felt with whether it was the weather or whether it was, but physical fatigue was a real factor in how well we went. So something I just thought I'd share, certainly worthwhile. I'd 100%, I suppose the bit that leads into, and not trying to make a sale, but very much it does point out that it's a place that can really help. And having a target like that, which doesn't need to go to the range, you obviously need to set it up safely with backdrops and that sort of stuff, and whether you're using quiet ammo or you're in places where you can use suppressors or that type of thing, and you can have a little target similar to that, one of those if you want them, but that type of thing where you can just do hours of, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes or an hour, several times a week, it's going to make a better shooter of you. It's also going to increase your, I suppose, what am I leading into there? You shoot when you don't want to shoot, not when it's easy to shoot, not when it's nice to shoot. When you don't want to shoot and you're physically feeling worn out, to go and do it then is teaching you stuff that will help you, whether you're in competitions or you're just ELR shooting to yourself or whatever it is, it's going to help you. The more time you've learned how to deal with worn out the better shooter you'll be in the extreme circumstances, which is always the way to make a better overall shooter. Anyway, guys, I hope that's some help to someone or anyone, and thanks for checking in on us. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Down below here we've got a link to our web store where we have some of the specialised long-range shooting products that we actually produce. Check them out.
And for those of you who can, it'd be great to get some help. In our store we have support bits, and when you purchase those, the money goes direct to our channel and helps us bring these videos to you.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.